And welcome back to Open Studio. All right, so we're going to finish up the interior on this episode and be ready to move on to the last two parts, which are the wheels and the grill, the whole grill and headlights and all that fun stuff. So I've got everything blocked in now with the airbrush. So now what I want to do is just kind of tighten it up with the black and white. Start with black. At this stage, it doesn't overly matter, again, if you do white or black. I like to do the black because there's usually more of it. So that, that just gives me, like, if there are little bright highlights, around details. Because I've done all the dark areas, it kind of draws everything else in for me, so I know where those little white highlights go, where sometimes you just have the white highlight and then you don't really know exactly where it goes because the other parts aren't in yet. Zoom you guys in a little bit for this because it's pretty tight. So in these stages now where I'm starting to get into these really tighter details, this is when like misalignments and stencils kind of get cleaned up. So if I missed on something a little bit, this type of stuff, these details are what allows me to clean those up. There's a bright white highlight here, which I'll get after. Excellent. Like down at the bottom there was a misalignment in the stencils between the two, but it goes away really quickly. Easy, easy. All right. Moving over. The front seat's got just a little bit of detail on it. Actually, this pillar needs to be cleaned up too. It's kind of raggy. And it's pretty thin. So what I'm going to do to clean that up, now the color behind it is gray, so I don't want to use just a black to run right up this thing because it'll appear as a black line. So I have like a reduced black now, and what I can do is, again, just like the white in the last episode, I could go over that a few times till it matches the value of the gray behind it. And it's a nice repair color because I don't have to dig out this, whatever color this background was, this dark gray, and try to match that. I can just use this reduced black and build up the value until it works the way it's supposed to. Same thing up at the top of this. See how it kind of flares in to make this chrome look really wide at the top? I can fix that now too. I talk about it all the time. Subtlety is a bigger hammer than anything. So sometimes it's the littlest things that have the biggest impact, and that's true with these paintings, especially on a small scale. If I miss something, even though it's really tiny, it can have a big, like, the viewer will be able to see clearly what's wrong with it, and it's interesting that way. The other thing I just noticed is these two pieces of chrome go all the way up to the top of this, which I did not do, so I'll have to do that right now. And stuff like that, it's like, especially someone who owned this car or owns this car, they're going to know those details. It's funny, there's a scale modeler, Harry Houdini, on YouTube, and he calls people that nitpick his scale modeling rivet counters, and it's so funny because I've heard that term before in art mostly from the aviation artists. So people will literally, like say, oh, there's only 6 rivets that go across the wing of that plane in that spot. You have 8, so your painting's wrong. So it's stuff like that. But on the other side of that too, it really does make a difference if you have those details nailed. It really does. Like I said, sometimes it carries more weight than the big stuff, Yeah, obviously, if you're majorly off on the skin tone of a portrait, that has that has a big impact on the painting. But if you have one eye that's slightly in the wrong direction, or if you're doing a portrait of someone and their nose isn't quite right, their nostrils aren't quite the way that they are in real life, people pick up on that. So that it's a small stuff. It's the saying is, angels and devils dwell in the details, and that's absolutely true. Okay, so hopefully, I'm talking and not telling you what I'm doing, but hopefully you can see it. So I've grabbed the black. I'm just, wherever there's a misalignment, I'm just kind of correcting that. There's a neat separation between the roof and the back seat, so I'll get that in there too. And that runs along the back, but it gets buried in the car, so you don't see it as it continues. Oh, that's what I was doing before. I got distracted with the vent window. There's a seam line in the seat here that you can see, and there's another one that you can see back here, and that's it. That's pretty much it. The rear view mirror should do that too, and the other vent window. Okay, so the rear view mirror is just basically, there's not a lot of chrome. It is chrome, but it's not getting a whole ton of reflections, so I'm going to kind of go with that. And then I missed the vent window over here. So drop that in too. I think that's all the black. So. Now the white, and this is what I mean though, so there's not a whole bunch of this white, but where it hits hard. It's really, really fun. So I kind of lost the reflection on top of this side mirror, so I'm going to add that back in. The door lock button is here. There's some sort of reflection in the roof in the back. There's a reflection on the folds in the roof here, and buckles. This corner of the front seat is also lit up. Put that in, as is here. The reflection on the steering wheel, just right here, and on the edges of the dashboard, there and there. Okay, rear view mirror has a little bit, just a touch. Paintbrush is drying out, so it's not going to work so well. There we go. It's rolling up on 95 degrees here today, so it's cool here in the studio, but that heat will definitely have an effect on the way this paint dries. All right, that's good. Oh, another really subtle detail, which again, these little things are what makes it. Really defines the images or the surfaces. So there is a reflection in the glass of this chrome trim, but it's very thin and it's very tiny. And let me get some paint in there and I'll show you. Here we go. But again, this little reflection goes a long way in describing what's going on. So there you go. So there's that. What else am I missing? Oh, okay. Back seat has a little bit of white here as well. Front seat also has that too. There we go. Now, the back of the roof, the folded roof, is very soft and fuzzy right now, so I want to kind of clean that up. So to get that to pop off of the painting, I'm going to use a reduced white to do that. I don't want to use a bright white because it'll look crazy. So it's the same thing here. I want to really reduce out this white and just have just kind of a ghost-like white Make sure the brush is pretty dry. And then I just want to push along that edge with this color. And you'll see what happens as I go to put this on. It will, you'll see it when I put it on, but then it'll immediately kind of disappear as it dries. It dries a little bit darker. So again, the nice thing about this is I can go back in after and paint over it to bump it up in brightness a little bit. I don't want this, again, I don't want this bright white. I just want to define that back edge a little bit, and that's going to work out great. So there we go. I think that's the interior. Now, oh, I forgot one little highlight. I could, like on the seats, like right in here, I could use a little bit of airbrush to brighten that up, which I think I might. Or I could leave it. It's subtle. It's small enough where that's not going to make a huge difference. What am I looking at? That one and this one here, the back seat. But I think adding a little tiny flare of white on the seat will work out pretty well. So let's do that. Okay, so for these type of applications of white, so for when I use a stencil and I'm blocking in with the white, I use 1:1, so it's 1 part paint to 1 part reducer. However, for doing stuff like this, the details and these little tiny like flares and things, I'll reduce it a little bit more. So this is opaque white, but it's 1 part paint to 5 parts reducer. Give this a good shake because the white will reduce in the bottle quite a bit. Which is why, again, why I don't mix up a whole bunch of this. So, again, because I'd rather run out of it than have it really separate and get weird on me. Okay, 1, 2, 5. Test this out on the side here first. Good. So that's 1 to 5, really, really thin. So what I'm shooting for is that little triangle right next to the side mirror. And all I want to do is brighten it up a little bit and fade it out. You guys close enough for that? I'll get you real close to see this, because this is why you would spend money on a good brush for this type of control. So the next thing I'm going to do is the next little line that runs down in the body, that has it on it also. So I'll do that a little bit, get that to flare out a little bit. It just makes the seat look softer. It's not so, hard-edged anymore. Yeah, this one on the back could use one too. Okay, since I have this on the brush, again, this is a good chance to put the reflection on this vent window as well. Just to look for a suitable template, something that I have room in. This one will work right here. Still stuffed up, so I apologize for that. I'm just cutting out the vent window right now. And again, like everything, this is an act of subtlety. So I don't want to white this window out. I just want to add just a little bit of a haze to it so that it separates it from the other parts of the interior here. So line that up like that. Actually, I'm going to drop a magnet on this because what I want to do is I want to be able to take a look at this without moving the template. There we go. So I'll pull this back and see how that looks. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. So it's just a hair lighter than the rest of the background, which is perfect. You know what? Since I got this in here, might as well do the windshield as well. So the windshield, I like to do this a lot on these paintings. I'm going to add a little bit of white to this edge of the windshield here. It doesn't really appear that way in the photo, but I like to add this because it adds a sense of, again, it adds that sense of glass without beating you over the head with it. So I'm cutting out the template right now, and I will show it to you in a second. So there's a template that I just cut out. It's got all the other white bits on it, so I don't have to worry about overspray. So all I'm going to do is just fold this back a little bit like that. Line this back up. About there. Same thing. I'm going to drop a magnet on this so I can take a look at it. And all I'm doing is about 1/4 of an inch along this side here. Just breathe that on there. Perfect. That's all I need. That's all I need. I'll pull this off to show you. So that just gives it, I'll pull it back a little bit so you can see the whole thing. But that just gives that edge of the windshield just a little bit of, you know, glass feeling. I could do a little bit on this side too, but I'm going to hold off on that just till I'm done, see if I need it. And that's a common thing I do a lot of times too. If I look at something and have to make a decision, if I'm really torn, then the answer is always no. So if I'm looking at that and I'm like, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Should I do it? I don't know. It's always no. If it's like, I really feel like I should do it, but it might not work out, then then it's a good argument to give it a shot. But if I'm pretty much in the middle, 50-50, I always say no, because it's always easier to add it than it is to take it away. It's easier to make that decision the farther the painting goes along. So by the end of it, I might look at that and say, no, I'm glad I didn't do it. I don't need it. But I may get to the end of the painting and I may say, you know what, it does need a little bit of something there. So again, if I were to fog that over on this side and then not like it, that's a lot of work to fix that. You have to basically repaint in everything. So err on the side of no. All right, so that is the interior, and it only took about 17 minutes, which was good. All right, so now I can start thinking about blocking in. I think I'm going to knock out the wheels, since the grill's going to take a big chunk. Not a big chunk of time, but that's the next major chunk of time. So I think I'll start dealing with the wheels now. All right, so to break down the wheels, there's a lot of chrome in these old Chevy wheels. They're fairly simple, almost slotted wheels. But still, there's a lot going on there. The concentric circles and all that, all that needs to be right. So what I do is I kind of look at it the same way. I try to turn my brain off and just look at the bits and pieces. Try to get it out of my head that I know that's round and I know that's a reflection of this and that and whatever. Try to just look at what's there, and that really starts to help. Now I've got a good gray base here already, so I don't have to worry about the base tone of it. I just have to start looking at the detail. So I pick the darkest dark and the lightest lights, and that's what I do. So let's do it. I think we'll do both wheels at the same time too, which is always helpful, because if you get distracted at some point, you don't have one finished and you approach the next one a little bit differently, and then everything gets screwed up. So that's no fun. All right, let me start with the lightest area then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out any of the areas, again, ignoring what I think I know about these wheels, and I'm just going to cut out what is the lightest area. This huge reflection of the sun, this is one instance where I am going to cut out what I know and not what I see. So what I've done is, with this cutout, I've only cut out the reflection that's on the actual wheel itself. This reflection goes out onto the tire as well, but that's going to be done with the airbrush. The airbrush is going to do that fuzz for me. So all I'm concerned about really is the actual highlight. But all these little highlights in here, again, I just turn off my brain. Just cut what I see. And it does. It adds that sense of realism because, again, if I force what I know is there, and this happens a lot with lettering. You know, when I'm doing lettering on vehicles or whatever, like I said, this back here I know says Super Sport, but if I get in there and start actually, painting the letters, it's gonna look dumb. It's gonna look forced, and it's not gonna look like what it really is. Happens a lot. So it's a constant battle to try to like fight that. It's not as much white on here as I thought there was. Again, this is what's nice about just kind of doing what's there and not what you think is there. The impact of those highlights are so great that in my head I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot of reflections and a lot of stuff going on, but in essence there really isn't. So there we go. That's all the white on that one. So the back wheels are always easier because of perspective. They're usually more condensed, which is fun because it makes the back wheels go a lot faster. There we go. The bright highlights along the trim, I will get that done when I do the wheels. So that's not, that was intentionally left the way it is. What I also think I'm going to do with the white, it's got these white walls, sort of white walls. So I'm going to get that line in right now. Yeah. The reason why I paused there for a second was I looked over to see if I had the tires painted yet, instead of just blocked in. So doing this line here makes it makes no sense if the tire isn't done. Because I'd have to just paint over it to get the tire done. Same thing with the back one. I'll just drop in this line so I know where it's supposed to be. Good for me for painting in the tires early. Usually I leave the tires and the wheels, but this time I didn't do that. All right, so I do have the white, a white in the brush. But again, that's a super reduced white. It's not what I would have chosen to do this, but instead of wasting the paint, I'm just gonna use it. So when I go to do that though, it's much thinner than what I usually use for this, so I really have to be conscious of taking this slow. This stuff, if I try to hose this down, it'll immediately spiderweb and go everywhere. Because it's not designed to cover, it's designed for detail. So, I really want to make sure this is lined up correctly. Because wheels are like eyes. Wheels to a car is like eyes or hands to a human. In portraiture, if you have the eyes screwed up, the whole thing looks wrong. The same thing with the wheels. If the wheels are like going sideways, or they're not quite lined up or whatever, people can really tell that. And again, you don't have to be an artist. You're around cars your whole life, and you know what they're supposed to look like. And if my paintings don't look like that, you know it. So, all right, let's do this. My guess is I'll get these wheels blocked in this episode, and then we'll put the details in and finish them up in the next one. All right. So I do this a lot with really thin paint, and ironically I learned it from watching automotive guys clear coat things. So obviously clear coat is clear. The last layer of the paint job is clear. So when you watch someone who knows what they're doing put clear down, they're not so much looking at the actual physical clear going on the car. They're looking at the wetness, the wetness of that paint, and that's how they determine where their overlaps are and how much they're putting on and how fast they need to move. They're not, because you can't see the clear, it's clear. So when I'm working with really thin paint, I've adopted that same method. So I'm not looking at the application of paint itself. I'm not looking at the white that's building up. I'm actually looking at it at an angle and looking at the wet paint hitting the surface. And I'm trying to keep that real consistent and light and ignoring what the paint is doing. So the paint is going to take care of itself. It's going to cover, it's going to build up, it's going to do all its things. What I don't want is to put on so much of it that it floods out. So, and that's easy to do if you're looking at the white. You're trying to get it to build up, and it just floods everywhere. This way, I'm kind of looking at that angle and seeing the paint kind of, go on in these light layers, and letting it do its job basically. Especially the smaller ones, it's so easy. Again, so easy to flood the paint in those smaller openings because it seems like it's all covered and nice and ready to go. But yeah, if you hit them hard, man, they do. The paint goes everywhere underneath there. We'll see how this stripe works. This stripe trick that I did with the the pinstripe, and I'm also doing it on the white wall here. This trick works a lot better with thicker paint. It just does. So I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but as long as it gives me a little bit of a guide to paintbrush with, that's all I need. So do the back wheel here. Wish I could describe or show you what I see when I'm painting at an angle like this. The white paint almost goes on like crystals, so you see it not necessarily, you do see the wetness of the paint, but what you really see are these like sparkles almost, and they're not sparkly, but you know what I mean. It's kind of a fractal wetness in a way. It's really easy to pick up and it's really easy to see, so it just makes putting this paint down very, very easy when you do it that way. And again, you never run into a problem of putting too much on. So I think I should be in good shape. I don't know how much of that line I'm going to get anyway. Oh, I got enough. That's good. So just with those few little white things, it really pops in. It really starts to come together. So now the next is the dark ones. And then we connect the dots and good to go. So what's going to happen is, looking at the time, we have about 2.5 minutes left. Ooh, that's going to be just enough time to kind of block in the black, the darker areas, and then I'll be ready to do all the details and fades and all kinds of stuff. The wheels will have a lot more airbrushing in them than the interior, because there's a lot of blending and kind of putting together. But that's what makes it work. Actually, we're not going to get this blocked in, because after I do the dark, these darkest areas, which there aren't that many, I would then do the gray areas, block in those as well. So we'll get the dark areas in. When we pick it up on the next episode, we'll block in the medium areas, and then be ready to finish the wheels up. So the wheels aren't going to be bad at all. Sometimes wheels take a long time. Like you have a bike with wire wheels, or some of the cars that have like really intricate aluminum wheels, things like that. That they can take a long time. They can be a big part of the painting. One of my favorite paintings was in a LaSalle, and the entire painting, even though there's more in the painting, but the entire painting for me were these incredible red wire wheels that were on the car. Just beautiful. I'm going to cut out this reflection because I want to. Oh, and this one too. Fold this one up though, because I don't want to do that one black. I want to do a fade on that one. Okay. Drop the black in, and the next episode we'll get the gray in, and then the paintbrush and details, and the wheels will be done. So chrome, I find, is another one of those things. It's so easy to overthink it, and that just throws people sideways when they're trying to get chrome done. when really the trick, just like most of the complex detailed stuff is, you just paint what you see. Just forget what it is. Just paint what you see, and that's it's totally true with chrome. All right, black. Okay. That is it. That is it. Perfect. But see, even with those few little things, that really starts to come together. So once I get the gray, the middle tone in, and then the other details like the paintbrush lines, those things will pop right away, and we'll clean it up, and they'll be ready to go. But you get the idea. So that's what we got. So thank you for joining me on this. Again, if you're enjoying this series, please consider liking and subscribing and sharing. It would be great. I plan on having one of these open studios going all the time. So when we finish up this painting, I'm just going to start another one, and so there'll always be a new open studio every week. So thank you if you've already subscribed and hit that like button. I really appreciate it, and we'll get ready for the next one. All right, so for Steve Leahy and Open Studio, thanks very much, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.